Dear friends, I am Father Mandra and welcome to CBS, Contemplative Bible Study Lesson 5. In our previous lesson, we reflected on the passers-by who trampled the divine seeds underfoot. Their destruction was not born of cruelty, but of blind indifference and insensitive mindlessness. They did not hate the seed. They simply failed to notice it. Today, we turn to the birds of the air. The passers-by destroyed the seeds accidentally. The birds of the air destroy them intentionally. The birds of the air are swift, intelligent, and airborne. They come to the seeds not by chance, but by purpose, to claim and consume them, to turn divine potential into food for appetite. Dear friends, today we explore what I call the second abortion, the devouring of divine consciousness under the banners of freedom, progress, and personal choice. The birds of the air represents ideologies, social movements, and cultural narratives that justify the destruction of sacred values under the pretext of liberation. They are ideological predators, systems of thought that disguise themselves as enlightenment, but in truth, consume the spiritual embryo before it awakens. They come in many forms: absolute autonomy, claim, I am my own God, my body, my truth. Effect, freedom detached from sacredness becomes appetite. Material messianism, claim, salvation is economic, political, and technological. Effect, progress replaces transcendence, heaven reduced to machinery. Emotional absolutism, claim, if I feel it, it must be true. Effect, emotion becomes a doctrine. Truth bends to mood. Scientific reductionism, claim, only what can be measured is real. Effect, person is reduced to chemistry, wonder to data. Spiritual consumerism, claim, all paths are equal. Choose what pleases you. Effect, the sacred becomes a product. The seeker becomes a shopper. All these share one agenda: to replace revelation with abstraction and communion with analysis. They speak the language of light, but their beaks are sharp. They promise freedom, but feed on life. They say, it is my body, my right, my choice, my truth. But they forget that life is never a private project. It is a divine collaboration. When the cry of my right silences the whisper of the sacred, freedom forgets its first purpose: to honor the life entrusted to it. The paradox of modern liberation is this: in claiming the right to define life, humanity begins to unmake the mystery that gave it to existence. We dethrone the Creator in the name of the creature and call the collapse progress. Yes, freedom is holy when it protects life. But when freedom turns inward and severs itself from its source, it begins to consume the very thing it was meant to serve. Freedom without reverence becomes appetite. Choice without love becomes violence wrapped in virtue. The first abortion happens underfoot, the seed crushed by the crowd's indifference. That is the violence of mindlessness. But the second abortion happens in the air, the seed devoured by the sharp beaks of ideology. This is not a negligence. It is intentional destruction disguised as virtue. The birds see the seed. They recognize its divine potential but instead of reverence, they consume it. They call it autonomy, but it is a disconnection. They call it progress, but it is the loss of reverence for the sacred. This is no longer the violence of ignorance. It is a violence of appetite, the articulate destruction of what is holy under the pretext of progress and freedom. Dear friends, the danger of the birds lies in their invisibility, the descent from above, not crawling but gliding through the realm of thought. The air represents the domain of ideas, persuasion, and cultural currents. Strange, bizarre, and revolutionary ideologies travel like invisible winds, entering the mind, shaping emotion, and claiming allegiance before reflection can intervene. They appeal to intellect and emotion, not to soil and silence. For the unrooted and the uncontemplative, these winds are perilous. They lift the person away from the ground of divine truth, carrying them into the skies of abstraction, where everything seems free, but nothing grows. When Jesus spoke of the birds devouring the seed, he revealed not a farming accident, but a cosmic theft, the systematic stealing of divine potential before it matures into consciousness. Cosmic theft is the world's conditioning system, beautifully and brilliantly smuggling away divine embryos through ideology. It replaces encounter with explanation, mystery with management, and revelation with rhetoric. The birds do not tell humanity to reject God. They teach us to reinterpret God into something manageable. They do not deny the sacred, they domesticate it, and thus the divine becomes an idea to debate rather than a mystery to adore. Every ideology that promises liberation triggers the brain's reward system, releasing dopamine, that thrilling chemical of novelty and pleasure. The limbic system lights up with emotion, while the prefrontal cortex, the seat of moral discernment, grows silent. We feel enlightened, but we are only stimulated. This is neural seduction, the mind's addiction to the pleasure of being right. Ideologies feed the brain like sugar feeds the body. Instant energy, no nourishment. What begins as awakening often ends as addiction to ideology. Flight without grounding, freedom without wisdom. Dear friends, the birds of the air are not merely symbols of evil. They are warnings of disconnection. They remind us that divine potential can be lost not only by ignorance, but by intellect divorced from awe. The second abortion, the devouring of divine consciousness, happens when freedom forgets its sacred roots. When thought consumes mystery, and when the mind mistakes appetite for enlightenment. The only safeguard against cosmic theft is rooted contemplation, the return to soil and silence, where the divine seed can grow. Dear friends, let us therefore reclaim the holy ground of reverence, where freedom bows before love, knowledge kneels before mystery, and every seed of divine consciousness is guarded, not devoured. For in the soil of silence, not in the air of argument, the kingdom begins to grow. And in our next lesson, we will tend to the seeds that fell on the rock. Thank you.